Hello, and welcome to Westmarch Workshop. My name is Archon.
And I'm Nineball.
In this episode, we're going to be talking to you about all the things. That's right, all of them. We know you're too busy playing Reaper of Souls right now, and you don't have time to read the stuff. And that's why we read it for you.
So you don't have to.
That's right. Here at Westmarch Workshop, we care about you, and we understand that sometimes you have to play Reaper of Souls 16 hours a day just to feel like you're alive. And we respect that. So we're going to take that time that you would have been spending wasting on the forums and give it to you right here while you're probably playing Reaper of Souls. We're going to catch you up on the news. We're going to tell you about some of the good builds going around and just give you our opinions, whether you want them or not. We'll try to keep it short and concise, to the point, give you some useful information right off the bat.
Now you're lying.
Okay, it's not always going to be useful, but it will be information, and it will usually be true.
How you decide to use it is up to you.
That's right. Welcome to episode 2 of Westmarch Workshop. Alright, I thought it was epic enough.
Yeah, that sounded good. I liked it.
I hear the music and I feel like I'm in like a battle scene or something.
I don't actually hear the music on my end. Maybe
So
I should start unmuting the stream for that part so I can be a part of it.
Yeah, I probably sounded much less badass to you. The music really adds to it, so luckily the people on recording will feel I'm a little more badass. But yeah, let's go ahead and start off with our week in gaming. I think it was a pretty good week of Diablo, but we'll have to wait on the news. How was your week, Nineball? If you didn't lose any hardcore characters, I guess it was better than last. Huh?
I guess I have not lost any new hardcore characters, so this week is already a definite improvement over the last one. And thanks to the 50% buff. Experience buff that we had over this weekend, it was pretty quick getting my Demon Hunter back up there. She's only 66 right now because I actually have been really busy this last week, and then on top of all of that, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it, but there's this this show called Game of Thrones. I don't know if anyone's heard about it, but I've never watched it before, and Comcast was having this watch-a-thon thing, and it was free on demand.
Wow.
So I started watching one episode, and then 9 hours later, I finished season 1, and that kind of just killed all of Saturday.
It's not all it killed, right?
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
I see what you did there. I now get those jokes.
Yeah, you're part of the club. Or the cult,
Yep,
I should say.
Definitely. It had me hooked. So and now I have to go through and find season 2 and 3 because I don't have HBO. So it's gonna be interesting. But what about you? What have you been up to this last week?
Well, I'll start off with the best thing that happened to me. It was I got a Shard of Hate. I'm so excited. This is like the item I wanted. Partly because I got to be part of the creation of it, but more so because it just seems to be the best item in the game right now, at least for what I'm running.
There's the bird.
Yeah, the bird. He's trying to join us as the third co-host. We haven't given him his interview yet, but he's getting a little impatient.
He wants to be a part. He loves the gaming community.
We told him we don't have room on the overlay. There's no where are we gonna put a bird, right? But yeah, Shard of Hate is it looks like it's broken right now because it says chance to cast one of these 3 spells based on the elemental type of the spell you're casting when you cast the spell, but it does it every time.
Whoa.
100% of the time, when you cast a lightning spell, it will cast Charge Bolt. If you cast a cold spell, it casts Skull Missile. If you cast a poison spell, it casts Poison Nova. And it does between 200 and 250% weapon damage based on how your Shard of Hate rolled. So
how did yours roll?
222, so right in the middle.
Okay.
The damage was horrible. I barely broke 2,000 damage. But I didn't care. Because really, like, the affix, it makes it like you have another primary skill.
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much is just adding on an extra 200% damage to every single thing that you do. What is what's the range on the Charge Bolt and the Poison Nova?
I haven't seen the Poison Nova because wizards no longer have poison skills.
Yes, that's true. Never mind.
But yeah, I was so sad. I wasn't even aware that they'd taken away all of them until I started looking for them. And I was like,
Hmm.
wait, we have no poison skills now because we used to have magic weapon and Hydra.
Yeah, magic weapon and Hydra. That was it, right?
I think so, yeah.
Hmm.
But now nothing. I guess they kind of want to limit how many elements each class has access to, which makes sense with the synergies.
And
Um,
to keep it more, I think it's also in a certain way to keep it more thematic. There's having just like the one poison skill on the skill bar was a little wonky in terms of like going through and having a theme for the character. I control fire and cold and lightning and arcane, and then I have a little vial of poison I keep over here.
I
This
just
sort of
dabble
works
in,
out
in
better.
poison. Yeah, no, it does make more sense. But really, like, charge bolt's range isn't great,
Hmm.
but it's about as big as the range of living lightning, which I've been playing around with. And
Okay.
living lightning's kind of hard to use, but after doing some tests, it's the highest damage and highest proc rate I can find out of any of the primary skills, which it probably should be because it's so annoying to use. It goes so slow. I
Yeah,
assume
it just kind of
there's
lumbers across.
yeah, no one used it before. It looks like it got a bit of a buff, so it works out pretty well as long as I'm using living lightning. I'm also doing a ton of damage. Yeah, pretty much just doubling the damage of my main cast. I did a DPS test on Gom before I got the Shard of Hate. It took me 34 seconds on T2, and then after I got the Shard of Hate, it took me 20 seconds on T2.
And that's even with your paper doll DPS going down because of the less damage on it, right?
Yeah, yeah. My old weapon had 2,300 damage and pretty much the same stats, and this one had 2,000, so it lost 300 weapon damage and still almost doubled my damage. It's pretty crazy. But I'm just waiting for the nerf because the tooltip clearly says chance on cast.
Hmm.
So yeah, I might
Yeah.
have to switch to Thunder Fury or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean that's how the legendary items should be. That where even if you go through and you take a paper doll dropped one of your stats, it still is going to be worthwhile. Whether
Yeah,
it's a weapon that increases or any type of item that increases your overall damage, even if your paper doll DPS goes down, that is still going to be preferable to use. Because like with that one, it increased your killing speed by like 30% there.
yeah, and I really like that. Like the legendary affix should be the most exciting thing about the weapon, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think they're going in the right direction with that. Although any weapon that doesn't have a legendary affix has become pretty much useless, it seems, once you've gotten one that has one.
They become forgotten souls.
Yeah, I see what you did there. That was good. Actually, I found one two-hander that might be useful. Schaefer's hammer,
Hmm.
two-hander, so it sucks for that reason. But the proc is a chance when you get hit that you deal 215%. I don't know if that can change. That's what it was on mine. 215% weapon damage to all enemies around you every second for 5 seconds. But it seems to activate like 1 in 3 hits. So as long as you're getting hit every second or two, you just always do 215% weapon damage to everyone around you.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
With a decent proc rate like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
like if it had the same, I would say the legendary affix is pretty comparable to Shard of Hate's legendary affix. It's just that you lose so much damage going with a two-hander.
yeah. Okay, it's 190 to 250% is the damage range on it.
Oh, very nice. There you go. Yeah, so yeah, hopefully they buff those two-handers. It doesn't seem like anyone's using them right now, but it looks like
Maybe we could ask Droth about that one.
yeah. Yeah, Droth, when are they gonna buff these two? Yeah, I got another two-hander too that made the energy twisters go straight forward. That I just makes me want to use energy twisters so bad, but again, can't justify the two-hander.
Yeah, I'm actually using a two-hander on my Crusader at the moment because I got the sword. What is it? The Sword of Prophecy. It's whenever I use Condemn or whenever an enemy is hit by Condemn, it triggers a Condemn explosion. So it's just this huge chain of the 1100 percent weapon damage explosions that just go off and one-shotting elite packs and such.
That's
Pretty fun.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
lots
sounds
of
like
fun.
yeah, that sounds awesome. Just tying this in, there are weekend gaming into news. I was doing Manglemot runs when I found Shard of Hate. For anyone not familiar with Manglemot runs, he's the purple unique mob that spawns in one of the cemeteries, in one of the crypts in the cemetery in Act 1, and you could get a checkpoint right after him that allowed you to just spawn in, kill him, and spawn out, and uniques have a good enough drop rate, and Reaper Soul said it was the best thing to do. And that's how I got my Shard of Hate. But
Hmm.
in the hotfix, as a lot of you guys know, or the patch rather, um, Mangelmaw was nerfed. If you have the quest after him, he won't drop loot when you go back and kill him. But then what we found out, I think today was when it was posted on Reddit, I think is where it got big. Um, Turns out you can still do Mangelmaw. It's just kind of tricky.
Yeah, because you have to make sure that you have the quest before killing him.
Yeah, well, so you get the checkpoint, and then when you go into Mangelmaw's room, you have to get out of the room to the other side of the gate before Mangelmaw bursts through the door. And then if you go back in the room and kill him, he'll still drop loot. I'm sorry, my dogs are very excited right now. But yeah, so I'm sure they'll fix that soon. I'm sure it's going to be in an upcoming hotfix. We have a hotfix going in today, so who knows? Maybe it'll be
Yep.
in that one. But yeah, maybe we should transition into patch notes. Just came out 2 days ago, 1 day ago.
Yep.
It's
We
Wednesday.
just yeah, we just got the new patch. Lots of
Yeah,
exciting changes there.
yeah. I'm so sorry about my dog. She just will not stop freaking out there. But yeah, I think a lot of good changes, and I should pull those up while we're talking about them, so I make sure we don't leave anything out. Um,
Yeah. Now, for the changes, obviously the big one is going to be the Crusader. All the buffs to the Crusader. Do we want to cover him first and get it out of the way, or do we want to do that last?
yeah. Let's talk about the Crusader. Let's talk.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
So, you mind if I start off?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So for anyone that's played a Crusader, pretty much already knows that the only real problem that they had was their killing speed. Their damage on most of their skills was really low. The Wrath Spinders didn't really feel worthwhile. And some of the generators felt even less so. And so they decided to go back in and make some fixes for that because they realized that it just was a little overwhelming in the underwhelming in the damage department, overwhelming in the mediocrity. So they really went through, they changed up a bunch of the skills, particularly the single target generators, which was Justice and Punish. And then just pages upon pages upon pages of damage buffs. So, if you play a Crusader, I'm sure that you've really been liking this most recent patch, because they've gotten rather significant damage increases on the majority of their skills.
Yeah, and Crusader players seem to have been on a roller coaster if they've been playing since beta. Because
Hmm.
for a while, Crusaders were just the class to play. And maybe the devs got a little heavy-handed in the nerfs to try to balance things. Who knows? But yeah, they've been underpowered. They've been overpowered. It seems like they're getting much closer to balance now. I was actually surprised. I didn't even realize that they weren't considered a melee class as far as the 30% reduced damage goes.
Yeah, and a part of that actually comes from, like in the beta, they were just really hard to die. They were hard to bring down. They're a very survivable class even without that damage bonus. But I guess as they've gotten more people playing, they feel that, well, obviously the 30% bonus would be a little bit too much, so they decided to help them out just a little bit because um, some of the things, it's like the one of the big problems that people have with the dodge mechanic. You can't block poison or molt. So a lot of those abilities, you just had nothing that you could block to stop the damage, so you didn't have that reduction of the incoming damage. So I believe that that's part of the philosophy behind why they went through and gave them just the 15% reduction.
Yeah, makes sense. Kind of a mid-range class, get half of the reduction that the melee class gets.
Hmm.
Well, the class that I play, Wizard, I would say got fixed, but the other Wizards players that I've talked to would say that they're nerfed. But I guess you make any changes to a class that makes you less powerful, and you're gonna be upset about it. But of course, we talked about last week Frozen Orb being broken, and they
Hmm.
did fix Frozen Orb, but I had made a prediction about how it was broken, and I was wrong. And we're still not quite sure if we understand it completely. I've been talking with JH. He was talking with Don Vu, who does the Wizard and Monk, when he was at the launch event, and we are just trying to work out exactly what happened. But I'll read you the fix from the patch notes. Fixed an issue where Frozen Orb was chilling for longer than intended. Fixed an issue where the Frozen Orb bonus damage radius was hitting a larger area than intended. So after talking with JH and looking at this and testing it in game, my best guess is that Frozen Orb has a chance to hit 3 times, but only one of the hits is guaranteed. It has a piercing hit, the shards from the side of the ball hit, and the explosion at the end hit.
Hmm.
And it just looks like the radius of, I think, both the explosion and the shards was big enough that enemies pretty much always got hit 3 times.
Yeah, so there wasn't any skill to using it.
No, and it was, yeah, it was just really powerful. You're just always doing max damage. And yeah, like you pointed out, Jake said Don Vu. I'm just relaying. A friend of a friend of a friend told me that someone else said no, but Don Vu apparently had said that the reason that Frozen Orb is so powerful is because it takes skill. If you don't use it well, you're going to do a little damage, but if you use it really well, then you can do more damage than you could with the other runes. And it looks like that might be where it's at now, assuming that they fixed it correctly. If you use it right, if you hit it just on the edge, at far enough range, you'll hit him with all 3 ticks. But if you're close up to him and you don't get the edge of the orb on him, you're probably only going to get 1 tick. And it kind of explains why a lot of wizards have said they don't even notice a difference, while other people have said it's broken now and it's not even worth using.
It really does make a big difference between just blindly having it do maximum damage and requiring a little bit of positioning, which obviously isn't a bad thing. It will hopefully inspire people to play better, and take more account into the actual positioning of their character in relation to the mobs, so that way they can always get that explosion, on top of the thing that it is that they're trying to kill, instead of just leading to, oh, they nerfed my skills.
Yeah, yeah. So, and real quick, Wizard Surge of Power and Electrocute was proccing too much. They fixed that. There's a bug with Arcane Dynamo and Prodigy and Teleport with Wormhole. You used to be able to teleport 4 times. You can only teleport 3 times now, which a lot of wizards are upset about. But you can go 50 yards each time you teleport, opposed to 35, which is a total of 150 yards compared to 140. So technically, you can go further, although having 4 teleports is nice. But
Yeah,
I think
especially when you're having to turn corners. If you're something in like keep step or anything else that has lots of turns, you're not really going to be able to get as much out of that 150 yards in little tight quarters.
yeah, and keep depths you can usually just go straight through the walls, but yeah, with a closed door or something, or in certain areas, you're going to go around the corner. But I think it was a good change because everyone uses wormhole and teleport, and making teleport go further but do less teleports with wormhole makes it so maybe the other runes will be a little bit more viable.
Yeah, because that's going to be a rather substantial bonus for any of the non-wormhole skills.
Yeah, yeah. So I think overall the wizard got fixed. Just some small changes, nothing too big. Yeah, the other changes I can talk less knowledgeably about.
Um,
I know.
Let me see. I can take monk.
Do it.
Okay. Monks are working as intended, and dashing strike is perfectly balanced.
There we go. That's monk patch notes
Yeah,
for you.
that was the monk patch notes. Yeah, I have a feeling that Don Vu was involved in that, the writing of that summary somehow. Um, and yeah, the philosophy behind it is they don't have any changes at this time. They feel that the monks are in a good place. They don't need any nerfs. They don't need any buffs. So well, I guess from the player mentality, you see all these other classes getting a lot of nice skill increases, and damage bonuses and stuff like that, and you're kind of feeling like, well, what do I get? But it's at least reassuring to feel that your class is already in a good area and that there's nothing really game breaking.
Yeah.
So, no news is good news.
No news is good news.
Yeah, and then of course, going into my favorite, the Demon Hunter, they did address some of the problems that the Demon Hunter has, similar to what they did with the Crusader. Their single target skills they buffed, because they just didn't feel that worthwhile compared to other things, especially something like Hungering Arrow got a buff in its skill damage from 125 to 155% base weapon damage, which was if you didn't get a decent number of procs, that pales in comparison to the Bola, which does 160% weapon damage to its first target, and then 110% damage to everything within the certain number of yards of it, depending upon which skill that you have.
Yeah.
Just it's like, why would I use Hungering Arrow when You have Bola as just as effective single target damage. Same thing with evasive fire. The middle shot, when you're lining it up to the target, is from 160 to 200% weapon damage, and the side shots are up to 100% from 80. Um, so that was another one which has limited targets that they went through, and they gave another little buff to.
Yeah.
Um,
And no nerf to cluster arrow.
Yeah, none yet. I'm not sure if they will nerf it, as I know it's really powerful, but it does require a rather large investment from your items. You have to get the cost reduction and some of the fire skill up there in order to really make it effective.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk a little bit more about builds after we get through the news, but yeah, definitely worth talking about. As far as witch doctors, they were saying that they just felt like witch doctors didn't have many options when they were out of mana, so they also
Hmm.
buffed some of their single targets, and they buffed haunt, or I guess you could say made a change. It used to do 1465% over 6 seconds, and now it does
Hmm.
4000% damage over 12 seconds. So I guess it's a damage per second buff, and it lasts twice as long.
Yep.
Pretty big change to haunt, and also something we'll talk about in the build section because there's some pretty nice combos with those witch doctor dots.
Yeah. They made what is it? They really ramped up the damage on corpse fighters. And I don't play a witch doctor, but I do wonder, since they're I believe the way that the skill works is they are still considered maybe not so much a pet, but they are still considered, like a mob. Um, I wonder if there's any witch doctors or people who main witch doctors. Do you know if Tasker and Theo affects them?
Hmm,
Like, do they get affected with the attack speed buff? Do they get extra attack?
they do not. Well, at least when we tested it in beta, they did not.
Okay.
They were not affected by anything that gave bonus to pets, which makes sense. It would be really hard to balance, it seems, if they did get bonuses from those items. But yeah, it looks like they're not treated as if they're pets.
Hmm.
But yeah, speaking of pets, maybe we should mention the buff to crit hit damage on pets.
Yeah, that was one of the changes that they made. Is they for those that didn't know, prior to this patch, all pets, whether it is the witch doctor dogs, the demon hunter's sentry or companions, the monk, what's that skill
The
called?
ally,
Mystic ally. Yeah,
yeah.
there we go. Mystic
I don't play.
ally.
We don't play monks enough, I guess.
Yeah, I used to main a monk through all of vanilla.
Oh,
What,
yeah. No excuse then.
what the names? Well, that no one skill with vanilla, so that's my defense.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
They had their crit damage capped at 50%. So no matter what your actual stats were, they could never crit for more than 50% bonus damage. With this patch, they removed the cap. So now if you have 300% crit damage, they're going to crit for 300% damage on their crits.
Which is a pretty huge buff. I mean, most people have at least 200% crit damage. So I mean, really, if you had 50% crit chance, half the time you're critting, you're getting a bonus. Let's say you had 300% crit damage, you're getting 125% more damage on your pets. It's more than doubling the damage that your pets were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So a huge buff when pet witch doctors seem to be pretty popular already.
Yeah, and I mean the one goal that I have in mind still is making the pet demon hunter with the marauder build along with the garwolf chest.
Yes, yeah. My friend Mikey's watching right now. He's been playing a build. Maybe we'll talk about a little bit when we get into the OP build section. But yeah, after yesterday's patch notes, I guess it was just today. I think they came out with more patch notes that didn't make the patch notes.
Mm-hmm.
Things that were in the patch but didn't make the notes, I should say. And one of those was that there's 6 items that were in the game in beta but were bugged. They had to take them out, and they're just in as of yesterday. So one of those was Moonlight Ward that was really OP. They had to fix, I guess, a bug with it to make it not super OP. Hexing Pants of Mr. Yawn, the Slanderer, Little Rogue, Focus and Restraint. Focus and Restraint's like a ring set. The Slanderer and Little Rogue are a dagger set.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
I believe it was the Slanderer and the Little Rogue. I think it was in Travis Day's podcast that he was talking about that is the rarest. Those both are the rarest items in the game.
Oh, really?
Yes.
The rarest items in the game, huh? Well, the set bonus if you have both of the daggers is every time you spend primary resource, you gain 6% increased attack speed for 5 seconds, and this effect stacks up to 5 times.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess if you could spend resources fast enough, you could just have 30% increased attack speed most of the time.
Yeah.
Pretty
So
buff.
it gets pretty crazy.
Yeah, and their daggers, of course, they're already super fast, and they have increased attack speed naturally rolled on them, or at least on one of them,
Hmm.
and the other one always gets a socket. So yeah, I guess it's a worthy set of items to be the lowest drop chance.
Yep. Can't wait to use them on my Demon Hunter.
Have you seen any melee demon hunter builds that have been efficient yet?
Not really. Not really. I know I've seen some people that have gone through and tried them, and the selection of your skills is just so limited, with what you can do. Um, I know some people have, or at least I haven't seen anyone yet, but I haven't really gone looking for it of any of like a melee demon hunter that's gone through to use the shard of hate, to
Hmm.
try and mess around with that with some of the uh, cold skills that they can do.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be interesting. It would pair pretty nicely with like frost arrow, it seems.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well,
but
but you can't use frost arrow. You're stuck using grenades.
yeah, that's
Is
no bueno.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were talking today on stream that it would be nice if they added a melee weapon that was for demon hunters that allowed them to cast certain skills that would normally require a ranged weapon.
yeah. Or
Just,
what would be interesting is that could be a very interesting bonus on a legendary quiver. Instead of it being
mm,
a quiver, you got a sheath.
yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea. And then you can use whatever weapon you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I hope they do something to support melee demon hunters. It looks like they have maybe the lowest build diversity right now, the least amount, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely quite a bit that demon hunters can do. I know from some of the things that I'm reading, because my own demon hunter isn't there yet, and I don't know how much of it is just forums being forums. But there's a lot of people that are complaining that just like in classic, their damage drops off, and that they have hard times farming, the higher torment level difficulties. So a lot of people have been having success with the cluster arrow. Well, we'll see. It's still really early. Not everyone has gotten and tried out all of the different combination of legendaries there are out there. I'm sure we'll see some stuff, and that's a little bit too early to start nailing the nails in the coffin just yet.
No, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, so, well, we'll get into builds in a little bit. Maybe we should also address right before we started the podcast, like an hour before the podcast started,
Not even.
not even.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. I can tell you exactly how long it's been 1 hour from now. So, yeah. Travis Day released this post talking about a hotfix that's coming out today. So, if you're not watching this podcast live, it already probably went live. Um, and yeah, addressed a few things that are going wrong with the game. I just before we get into it, I just thought it was really cool how quickly they're pumping these hotfixes out.
Hmm.
I think they're doing a good job.
Definitely. I mean, this was obviously we just went through and got some great nerfs to rifts. With the 25% bonus drop chance, or
Buff to
25%
riff.
legendary drop chance buff to rifts.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right? The way I said that. Sure, let's go with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're running a legendary rift, you now have a 25% increased drop chance compared to when you're not in the rift. But apparently, after one day, they're like, that's not enough. We need to turn this to 11, and 11 they did. So it's now 100% bonus chance. They're literally doubling the drop chance of legendary items while running rifts.
Yeah. So I think this is mostly to combat other methods of farming that have become more efficient than rifts. Travis addresses that rifts should be the most efficient place to farm, and they're one of the least efficient. If you're really willing to do whatever is most efficient. Of course, we talked earlier about Manglemaw runs, Razor Claw runs. It seems like they feel like that's always going to be a thing. So in addition, they also nerfed uniques, which I think
Yep.
is kind of sad for a lot of us. Uniques were weak in vanilla, and we were really excited that they were actually going to be worth killing now.
Mhm.
I almost wish that they just make them harder to kill, but I guess maybe you're never gonna stop the loot farming runs, even if you triple their health.
Yeah, and the the big thing behind that is because it's in the story mode. You have certain uniques that are always there. It's just like Pendle skin runs in Diablo 2. It's just they're always there at this point, so I can just create a new game at this quest, and I can always go and kill this thing because he's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Um,
And you
maybe they could have just nerfed those mobs in particular. Maybe make a different type of unique, like a story unique and a non-story unique compared to the ones that just randomly spawn, and the ones that are always there, like Mangle Claw and or Mangle Maw and Raven Claw,
Razor Claw.
Razor Claw. I will get one name right by the end of this podcast. I got Pendleskin right. That counts.
There
I'll
you
go
go.
with that.
Yeah,
Um,
Wyatt Cheng had talked a little bit about that, the story-based ones and just the random encounter ones. And you could tell they didn't want to nerf the drop chance because with yesterday's patch they did try to fix it without nerfing the drop chance from uniques.
mhm.
But yeah, it would be nice if they sometime dropped good loot. And then of course the other thing they had to combat was chest farming, and they nerfed chest farming already, at least the areas that were being farmed the most. But players just found new areas.
Um, Nabio1 in the chat is actually pointing out that the buff to the legendary drop chance buff is multiplicative, so that at like Torment 6, it actually ends up being like a quadruple drop chance.
Yeah. When you go up torments, you get bonus drop chance. The effects that they're putting in now, the 25% and then the 100% that came out today, that multiplies whatever it was before that.
Because
So
it's a 15% base per Torment level for your drop chance, right?
it's always 15% higher than the torment before.
Mm-hmm.
So Torment 1 is 15% higher than anything below it. Torment 2 is 32% higher, which is 15% of 115% would be 132%, and then so on and so forth. So it's always 15% more than the drop chance of the one before it. I'm sorry, I said of 100, but it's just of 15. I think you guys got the point though. And now Rifts might actually be the best place to farm.
Yeah. They're definitely pushing it that way, just like some of the changes that they made previously. Upping the drop chance is in the Torment difficulties, making Torment, more rewarding, trying to push players over there. And now they're doing the same thing. They're pushing more rewards into the Rifts, so they're making Rifts more rewarding, and then they're making those more rewarding when you run them in Torment. So they're definitely, kind of a guiding hand of this is a great way that we intend people to play without actually having to go through and nerf the other difficulties in order to try and make them more rewarding. Though that's not to say that they're of course not going to fix exploitative gameplay like the Mangle Maw and chest runs.
Yeah, and it seems like the guiding hand idea that you just mentioned was kind of like a last resort. Because if you remember, it was probably about a year ago, Travis Day was talking about his philosophy behind what is now Reaper of Souls, and he said that when players sit down to play Diablo, they should say, "What do I feel like doing today?" Not "Let's go run keep depths 50 million times." I'm paraphrasing, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, but that's not where we're getting to, and I don't know if we could ever get there because, like Jay Wilson said back in the day, Diablo's a game about efficiency. It's about
Yeah,
farming efficiency, and most players, unless it's horribly boring, will do whatever is most efficient.
yeah. That's one of the things that we talked about on the last episode about the just doing what gives you the best rewards for your time played.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you're right. I think people will get pushed into rifts. I agree that rifts probably should give the best drop chance, just because something has to give the best drop chance. It might as well be rifts.
Yeah, and this is it's almost kind of like training for 2.1. at someday in the far-flung future, when we'll have tiered rifts, where we're going to have the competitive aspect that's added on to the rifts, rewarding you even further. And this is like the dedicated gameplay that we're targeting.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully they continue to add more ideas like that, because I think if we have things we can do with our gear once we've beefed out our character, then we really could get to the point where we're asking, what do I want to do today?
Hmm.
Instead of just doing what's most efficient. If there's some kind of competitive aspect there, or just some other modes of play. I mean, I think, like, for example, Ubers right now,
Yeah.
I think could be, if tuned, a logical decision in how you want to play the game. The problem right now, I think, is that Hellfire Ring is almost never going to be best in slot because the 45% bonus experience doesn't get multiplied. It's just additive.
Yeah.
So in normal, you're getting 45% bonus experience, but by the time you get to T6, you're getting like 5% bonus experience, or I think even less. Um,
And not only that, but there's just some of the other changes. You no longer have a compelling, psychological drive to want to level up as much as you can. In the beginning, it's like, well, I need these paragons, I need these paragons. Once you start getting to around paragon level 200 and you're maxing out your most powerful stat in each of the categories, it kind of drops off a little bit, with how much you want. And as you just keep on going, it's like, well, I just keep on going. You don't actually have a goal to latch on to like you did with Paragon 100.
yeah, yeah, I think you're right. I think the Hellfire Ring proc is not bad, but it's just your chances of getting a good roll on a Hellfire Ring are so low. And because even on T6 it's only a 50% drop on the keys or the bosses, and you now need 4 instead of 3,
Hmm.
it just takes a long time to get Hellfire Rings. And it's just not worth the time right now.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they figured that people would just naturally kill key wardens as they were going along, and they would eventually get to a Hellfire Ring, and they would just make one or two for their alts. But that seems kind of like a sad place for Ubers to take in the game to me.
Yeah, especially, for the people that have played Diablo 2, what the Ubers were like, there, where you got the Hellfire Charm, which was, it gave pluses to all stats, gave pluses to all resist, and gave, +3 to all of one particular class skill. It was something that, just no matter what you were playing, as long as you had the one for your class, it was a huge increase in something that was worth having on your character. But they kind of said that with the original Hellfire Ring, because they said that they were when they originally nerfed the proc itself from scaling with your main stat and weapon damage, and they made it to non-scale. They said, well, we're okay with it not being best in slot, and it's just an alternative option for people that want a bonus while leveling.
Yeah,
That's probably the way that they're going to stick with it, even now that, it's like, if you want to level, well, then this is the best thing that you want to do. If you're looking to just, get as powerful as you can for running rifts, this isn't the ring for you.
yeah. I guess I'm not a big fan of that. I like Ubers being something that's worth running, but yeah. I mean, I guess for some people they might still take it. It's even while leveling, it doesn't seem super great compared to what you can give to your low levels now. But we'll see. Maybe my opinion will change over time.
Hmm. And, there's obviously a lot more tiered Ubers.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot more that can be added.
tiered Ubers would be pretty cool. I would
Yep.
not. I would be for that. Before we move on, I think I forgot to mention what they did to nerf chests, or what they're doing today, I should say. They're just going to reduce the amount of chests in the world. They don't want to make chests less fun when you or exciting when you find them, but there's going to be less chests to deter people from farming them. I was hoping they'd do something where the loot from the chests or the amount of chests in the world was determined by how many monsters you'd killed in that game. Just to make it so you can still, like, chests are still plentiful and good, but you can't just run in and grab a bunch without killing anything.
Hmm.
But
That would be definitely one thing that they could do, though I imagine it would require, that would require a bit of, coding time, so that'd be something that they'd have to dedicate themselves if they wanted to go that route.
Yeah, it looked like they just wanted to get it fixed quickly, and this is probably just the easiest way to stop people from farming chests.
Yeah, just adding in, changing the spawn algorithm or whatever it is that controls it, and nerfing the or lowering the chance of them spawning, and probably making it so they can't appear near things like waypoints and zone logins.
Yeah. Well, I think that caught us up on news. Was there anything else we want to cover there before we get into builds?
I guess the one other thing that we haven't mentioned in the hot fixes is they're going to buff the legendary drop chances for Kadala again.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
Totally missed that.
yeah, and that one is not just oh, we're buffing her again. It was interesting, getting the philosophy behind it, and because they want it to scale and feel rewarding and worthwhile using those blood shards compared to the rest of the game. So since they're increasing your drop chances in the rifts, they want her to still feel rewarding. So they're going to increase her chance of giving a legendary as well to kind of counterbalance that.
Yeah. My worry here is that legendary drop chance is just going to get too high, and that we're going to be getting our full sets of gear early on and not have much to look forward to.
It's a definite possibility, and that's one thing that I asked Wyatt at BlizzCon, and was just one of my original fears with them upping the drop chance and removing trading was, well, if you make it to where everyone can get everything in a relatively quick amount of time, what reason is there going to be to play? But on the other side of it, there are a lot of items in this game to go through and collect. So, it might be something that isn't, right now isn't that bad. And then we're going to have tiered rifts and new legendaries and new monsters to go through and farm in the future. So, it's
Yeah, maybe it'll work
something
out.
to think of. It's not exactly like a closed system. There's going to be some definite expansion that are going to be added in to just Reaper alone.
Yeah, definitely. I guess the question is, who do you scale the drop rate to? Are you scaling it to the person who plays 5 hours a week or 20 hours a week, or like who should it feel best for? Because
Mhm.
ultimately, the people playing 16 hours a day, it's going to feel like the drop rate's too high, and the people playing 2 hours a month are going to feel like they're getting nothing. But I guess you just have to pick a spot and try to balance it for everyone as best as possible.
Yeah, and I mean they're going to go for the more casual audience just because it's going to make up a much larger percentage of the people that play the game.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Although my viewers would probably disagree. They seem to feel like everyone's hardcore. I think it's just because or I say hardcore, I mean like plays a lot, not plays on hardcore. I think it's just because they all converse with each other. It starts to feel like everyone who's playing the game is playing, you know, 4+ hours a day. Um, but yeah, I think you're right. I think the vast majority of the players are only playing a handful of hours a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into the builds. What we were thinking this week is we just go over each of the classes and builds that we've seen are potentially overpowered or at least very popular. And then after going through each of the classes, me and Nineball are just going to do a wager on which skill is most likely to get nerfed first. And this
Hmm.
is going to be kind of like our first challenge. We're going to, on each week, we're going to try to cover a build or two and then finish off with a challenge if we have a good one. So we're kind of combining it this week. But yeah, do you want to start off with you can choose a class and just go for it if you want.
Okay, I can go for definitely one of the most popular ones right now, as far as my personal favorite is the with the Demon Hunter, is the Cluster Arrow, loaded for bear, just because it's one of the single most damaging attacks that the Demon Hunter has. Though it is really expensive, clocking in at let's see, let me pull it up so that way I have the exact numbers. Yeah, that'd be useful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean we can always just throw out numbers and let people do
Yeah.
their own research, but
Yeah, so base it costs 40 hatred, which is a third of their total resources, and then you have the loaded for bear, which just further increases its damage from the 550% to 770%. So it just is a massive amount of damage. Though even though it's very expensive, you combine that with a bunch of cost reduction, specifically the Cinder Coat, which not only reduces the cost of it, increases its damage, and it just is very effective. And you combine that with some other things like Reaper Wraps or Bloody Vengeance for picking up health orbs, and you just can go on. And since you're, you know, pushing, the majority of the mob's health with just a couple shots, they're dropping health orbs left and right and allowing you to replenish. Or even if you get only a couple shots off, you can, get back to full hatred instantly and go through and just start chucking out another couple of them.
Yeah, I think a lot of Demon Hunters using the preparation rune that gives you hatred as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's the preparation.
H.
Yeah.
Preparation DH.
Beautiful. Yes. That is it. It's a punishment, so that way they can go through and get 75 hatred back, instantly. And then also for that one, they're pumping a lot of their Paragon points into max hatred to up their hatred total. So they just start off with a higher amount, and that's really all that it is. It's just playing. It's kind of a roller coaster with the amount of hatred that you have, and seeing how many of those arrows you can get off to make the things die. And that was. It does have some success in the higher torment difficulties. Depending upon the rest of your gear, though, it runs into the problems where if you don't push the mob past the point where they drop like elites, if you don't push them past the point where they drop health orbs, or if you get lucky past those 25% marks and they don't drop a lot of orbs, you could find yourself starved for hatred, and you're kind of out of luck at that point.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a risky build, but it's something that you can definitely mitigate with a lot of items.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I just want to point out another DH build that my friend Mikey found today, because it seemed like it was just wrecking T6 from what he was saying.
This is one that I'm heading towards myself.
Oh yeah, it looks like most Demon Hunters are going towards a pet-based build, and it seems to have a lot to do with the 4-piece Marauders that let you have all your pets at once. And what's the name of the cloak?
Garwolf.
Garwolf.
It's the Cloak of Garwolf.
Giving you 3 wolves at once. And then since they just let your pets do all of your crit damage, pets could be doing over double the damage that they were doing before that change. And Mikey came with the idea of just using Sharpshooter, which Sharpshooter gives you up to 100% crit chance until you attack. It just slowly goes up, and then once you attack, it goes back down to your normal crit chance. But since your pets get your crit chance, he just never attacks anything. So all of his skills are like marked for death, sentries, his companions, things that are going to buff his pet's damage. And because he never attacks, without even having any crit chance on his gear, which he still does, but he wouldn't have to, he'd still have 100% crit chance on his pets. They crit every time they do all of his crit damage. And he was saying on T6 it was just wrecking even before he geared for it. So it seems like that could be a potentially OP build, but I haven't seen a Demon Hunter really going for pet-only damage, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely is one that, to me, it looks like a lot of fun. I'm not sure if I'll take it all the way to doing the sharpshooter plus, stand around and do nothing.
He says he literally just runs in circles sometimes.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to my point last week about, I have to have fun while I'm playing.
Overrated.
But then again, I also, I spent most of D2 playing a Lagromancer, and that was just, amplify damage. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
That's pretty funny. All right. Well, that was a few builds for the Demon Hunter. I'll go into my class, Wizard. There's a few skills and a few builds that are getting pretty popular right now. The Archon Wizard is really interesting. Good Idea Gaming is probably the one streamer that's popularizing it. Not that other people aren't finding it on their own, of course. It's a pretty straightforward build. Who'd have thunk of it? Stack cooldown reduction and use Archon. Of course, people want to get back to the original Archon build that was in Vanilla Diablo that the devs have tried very hard to get rid of. But it looks like even after the fix to the Shrine Gloves that allowed you to have Empowered Shrine for an hour, now down to 10 minutes, of course, like it should be, you can still get Archon down to only a couple second cooldown. So you can't quite have it on all the time, but you can have it on most of the time. And from talking to viewers in the chat, it seems like a lot of people are going for that build now. But I would be wary. although I'm sure Archon will always be viable and cooldown reduction will always stack well with Archon, you're probably safe there. It's just that if you ever could get to perma Archon or close, I'm pretty sure the devs are going to look at fixing that.
Oh, definitely. I mean that's why they changed it, in Reaper, just for that whole purpose of getting rid of perma Archon.
Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like it's a viable build, but just don't get your hopes up on perma Archon. Overall, wizards are mostly just picking one elemental type and synergizing with that. Frozen Orb is really popular, but it's not as popular as it was anymore. Disintegrate, Wand of Woe.
Hmm.
The Wand of Woe build, of course, adds 3 more explosive blasts to your explosive blast, and Mirror Ball, which just got nerfed, but it's still pretty big. But yeah, as far as OP builds go, I think Archon's the real threat, and I really don't know if it's OP because I haven't done any research into it. But it feels like it could be because the Archon skill is pretty powerful, even if you aren't spec'd into it.
Yeah, or have the what is it? The Vires set is the Archon set.
Yeah, of course. If you have is it a? I can't remember if it's a 4 or 5 piece to get the full set bonuses, but it allows you to have all the runes on Archon at once.
Yeah, so you get all the bonus skills, you know, and then the 25% damage on top of that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think for Wizards right now, there's actually a lot of viable builds. It's probably one of the best looking classes as far as builds go. But yeah, a little bit of threat there with the Archon build. We'll have to see how it evolves.
Yeah.
Do you want to tackle Monk or Crusader?
Yeah, I can do Crusader because sadly I've not been doing any research on the monk at all right now, so I can't really speak to it. But with the Crusader, there's been a couple. There's like the block build, which was using a Blessed Shield along with Punish. That you just what is it? I believe they're using the. Now I have to switch over to my Crusader just to see the actual name of the build.
Let me pull up
It
the
is it's
calculator.
the Crusader. It's the Blessed Shield that has a chance on exploding when it hits a mob, and then there's a shield that allows it to where it hits 6 additional enemies, so you get even more chances for it to go through and explode. Um, and then of course you use punish retaliations, where whenever you block an attack, you explode for 45% weapon damage to all enemies within, I believe it's 15 or 20 yards, and it's just stacking up. They're both fire-based skills, so it's again cinder coat and a bunch of plus fire damage. That one is pretty powerful. A lot of people like it. Um, Punish roar. That's what it is. Punish roar. And then the other one is Blessed Shield Combust is the other one. So just making it go so that way you're stacking on the fire damage, and you kind of just sit there and get as high of a block chance shield as you can. The punish gives you additional 15%. You can get the hold your ground for another 15% block chance. So that way you're blocking like 50% of the time, and it can get pretty crazy. Like you can go through and fight anything with fire chains. You can fire chains, itself procs, like 4 or 5 times a second, and you can block it. So you literally turn into a little star because you're exploding with fire so much, and you just even though it's only 45% weapon damage, you obliterate everything around you because it's just procking so much.
Wow.
It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Uh,
The Thorns build's pretty big on Crusader as well right now, right?
yeah, though. That one comes from the Thorn set, just going through and stacking a whole bunch of Thorns damage and allowing it to proc with, explode and hit everything within 15 yards. And the one-handed axe, Aiden's something. Like I said, I will get one name right. There's an axe that allows you to do all of your Thorns damage on your attacks.
Yeah.
So that one, becomes pretty powerful when you're stacking, over 100,000 Thorns damage.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and then there was one
say,
thing that. Go ahead.
sorry, the bracers that have a
Oh
chance
yeah,
when you get hit to do 1,000% of your Thorns damage.
yes, and those ones I actually do have those. They're the Sangori Van braces, And yeah, a chance of being hit to deal 1,000% of your Thorns damage to nearby enemies, which explodes and kills things.
Yeah.
Zorndar goes through and says the passive is pretty OP right now. You had one day. Crusaders had one day of just complete and utter ridiculous numbers of Thorns damage because with the patch, their Thorns damage scaled with difficulty. It would be 6,000 damage in normal and 524,000 damage on Torment 6. That then, of course, scaled, with your primary stat to bonus for the bonus damage. But that has since been nerfed with today's hot fixes. It now is just 6,000 damage across the board, but the tooltip will still say 500,000 damage until they correct that in the patch.
Yeah.
So it was pretty ridiculous for one day.
500,000. Yeah, but it looks like the Thorns build is still really viable. I saw a YouTube video before that bug came in of a Crusader doing about 20 million damage on crits to Gom with really horrible gear. He
Mm-hmm.
went through his gear mostly rares, but was still able to get some pretty big ticks. So it looks like, yeah, Thorns Crusaders are going to be pretty viable.
Yeah, and they've been viable. Viable. They've been viable since beta. That was a really big one once they actually added in the Thorn set. It was just a very impressive thing that a lot of people liked. A lot of people enjoyed having, that had build back, kind of like the old, necromancers in D2 got a lot of mileage off of Iron Maiden or Thorn's Paladins, so they weren't quite as effective.
Yeah. Well, I don't think either of us know too much about monks and barbs, but we can share the little we do know, and maybe chat will even drop us some clues that we can share with you guys. And I'll talk about monks first because that's the one that chat could help us the most on. I know dashing strike is probably used by all monks, but in the same way that teleport is probably used by all wizards. Um,
Yep.
Probably doesn't need necessarily a nerf, but lashing tail kick does seem to be really popular right now
Mm-hmm.
with stuns.
Yeah, it's because it's really cheap. You can easily stack on, over 300 spirit, and that is a lot of lashing tail kick, zero, resource reduction. Once you start stacking on some, even like 10%, that's like going from full to empty. That's one whole extra lashing tail kick without even factoring in your spirit per second.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I think they're using the rune that has a chance to stun. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a popular one. And that's about as much as I know on monks. I know that cold's not as popular as fire and lightning right now, um, but I'm out of the game when it comes to monks.
Yeah, that does make me think a little bit. This when you start talking about the elemental damage types. There's a lot more items that actually benefit fire than most of the other elements. Because you have like Cinder Coat, Mage Fists, and then you have your amulet and your bracers and things like that that give you the bonus. And then you also have like Maximus and what's the other one? Sancris,
Yeah,
the
burning axe of
one-handed
Sangus.
weapon. Yeah, that
Yeah.
just give you all these huge damage bonuses to fire, and there's very few that give damage bonus to cold. So it kind of
Yeah.
pushes you into those certain elements, just the way that the itemization system is. You know, Obviously it's something that you have to look at, further down the line in terms of trying to keep things balanced. But it is just interesting to see kind of a shift of the community go towards these particular damage types because of the itemization of the game. It's like it's
Yeah.
nice that items, even though in this respect it's kind of a negative aspect, but it's still nice that the items are really pushing people in one direction or another.
No, yeah, I definitely think it's cool. It gets us to try out more builds. It seems like there are a lot of items that give bonus to cold spells, but fire has more straight damage buffs. And I
Yeah.
wonder if the theory there is let's make fire the all-out pure damage build because cold and lightning generally have crowd control to go along with them.
Hmm.
So if you want some protection or some utility, go cold or lightning, get some chills or some stuns. And if you just want pure damage, go fire.
Yeah, definitely is. So, like right now with the stun rune, like and say Lash Tail Kick being popular, that's because it takes a while. You don't have everyone's putting everything into damage. Not their toughness is kind of suffering for it until we start getting the perfect rolls on gear, and then the toughness will go up over time. They can't really survive Torment 6. They go down in a couple hits, so they want to stun the mobs in order to kill them effectively. Once they don't need to and they can take the hits, then they're going to switch over to damage because they don't need the CC anymore.
Yeah, yeah, you're probably right. I guess, yeah, we'll see how that evolves. Yeah, hopefully everyone doesn't feel obligated to switch to fire once they have enough
Mm-hmm.
toughness. I guess going cold or lightning will always allow you to have less toughness and put more focus on damage in your gear. Um, but enough on monks, which we know nothing about. As I say, on barbs, another class I have not learned much about since the Reaper Souls, but I've noticed that barbs are stacking a lot of cooldown reduction right now.
Yeah, the avalanche. I know. Every time that I see something and someone running, something with avalanche, that seems to be incredibly popular.
Yeah, any of those big cooldowns, Earthquake or Wrath of Berserker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Al Kaiser, who's of course the first person to hit 100 Paragon, has been running Whirlwind Barb, Wrath of Berserker, even after the Glove Shrine nerf. So, yeah, I worry that that's going to become the thing to do. That you just have to stack cooldown reduction so you can stay in Wrath of Berserker. And I guess it's the same worry I have for the Wizards and Archon.
Yeah, it'll definitely be something that I guess they're going to have to go and look into and see. You know, do they have to change it again? What could they do? They could either remove the skill completely from cooldown reduction, or they could have it reduced effectiveness and cooldown reduction, which obviously either of those ones is going to be ill received by the community.
Yeah, I think some diminishing returns could be in order.
Or a cap of some sort where you can't reduce it past this point.
Yeah, I guess they could reduce the no, never mind. As I'm thinking about this, it doesn't work. So moving on. I don't know what they'll do, but yeah, it looks like something needs to be done there because cooldown reduction just seems like it works too well for certain builds.
Mm-hmm.
And then witch doctors. I don't know if you want to talk about this dot build with I can't remember the name of the set.
Hold on. I actually had that one open in Yeah, I had that one open in preparation of us going through and talking about it, and I used that window to go and look up all the other things that we were talking about when I had to go and look up all the other items because what are additional tabs? But there is the Witch Doctor set that basically changes the functionality of Siphon Soul and makes it to where it consumes your dots and does all of their remaining damage, or so it says, instantly. But it doesn't actually quite work like that. Here we go. Is the Jade Harvester. The actual functionality that it does is it consumes a certain duration of the skill and does all of that damage instantly. But you can go through and use their passive that makes their dots last practically forever. Practically forever is 5 minutes. In case you ever wondered what practically forever
5
was.
minutes does feel like forever to me.
It is. Just try sitting in a game and staring and doing nothing. It would stare and listen to Tyrael talk about eating food for 5 minutes, and it will be practically forever. But when you use those skills, you can actually go through and use the Siphon Soul to consume multiple times. That one, of course, relies a lot, or gets benefit from a lot of cooldown reduction. Since Soul Harvest itself already has relatively small cooldown, but it's just mashing that as much as you possibly can, and you can usually get about 6 uses of Soul Harvest when you have the dots up with the that last practically forever. And this can do a ridiculous amount of damage, especially when combined with the Quetzalcoatl Mask that allows them to, or that the Quetzalcoatl Mask, what it does is it halves the duration of the dots, but doubles their damage. So instead of like for Haunt base, it does 4,000% damage over 12 seconds. It will instead do 4,000% damage over 6 seconds. And that just goes into the
Eight.
Soul
Oh yeah, sorry.
Harvest.
Never mind. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that just goes into the Soul Harvest build because you're doing that much more damage. It's doubling the damage of that Soul Harvest proc every time you use it.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like it's working as intended there. It seems like the mask shouldn't affect. I mean, just how it reads, it seems like the
Mm-hmm.
mask wouldn't affect the set bonus because the set bonus reads it does the rest of the duration, and of course the mask doubles the damage but half the duration, so it should be the same amount of damage. But of course, as you pointed out, the way the spell's actually working is since it's only taking what 30 seconds, I think you said.
Yeah, it's taking
Um,
like a clip of like 30 seconds or 20 seconds of the duration, calculating how much damage it's supposed to do within that time frame, and then going through and of course blasting the enemy with it and taking that duration off of the dots.
Yeah, so I wonder if that'll get fixed. There's a video on YouTube that my friend Mikey showed me with a witch doctor who was critting, not even critting, I guess it was just ticks of Soul Siphon for 1.5 billion damage.
Mm-hmm.
And did almost half of Gom's health in one hit on T6. And I guess that same guy streams and has been just insta-gibbing all the elite packs using the same tactic. So it seems
Yep.
pretty OP to me.
It is definitely ridiculous. And then on top of that, they just buffed Haunt, which increases damage even more.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Well, I guess we've covered all six classes. Do you want to take a gander? If they were going to nerf a skill, what would it be?
Um, well, since I'm going first, I'm going to preempt you, and I'm just going to go for Archon Wizards.
All right,
Uh-huh.
that's
I'm gonna
fine.
take. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Because
I'm
I'm
gonna.
going for your class, so it works out.
Yeah. Yeah. That really just goes in because they've already found a way back into the permanent Archon, which is one of the things that they specifically broke for Reaper of Souls. There was developer interviews that talking about why they did this because they did not want people having permanent Archon or permanent Wrath of the Berserker anymore, and we've gone and found a way to do it anyways. So there is somehow they're going to change the functionality of the skill or how cooldown reduction affects the skill, so that way you can't have it up 100% of the time. Since that's just a type of play that they did not want to have going forward, and we're 2 weeks into the game and people are already doing it. So if they don't make changes to revert that, I would be surprised.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go with cluster arrow loaded for bear. I just think even though it looks like endgame most demon hunters are going pet based, it looks like even a lot of the pet based ones are going to be going for cluster arrow. I know a lot of people were going cluster arrow for the 6-piece marauder set, which makes your sentries fire your hatred spenders. But as we found out with a few of the people on my stream this week, the 6-piece is pretty horrible.
Yeah,
It
very
fires,
horrible.
yeah, fires it so infrequently that it's not a huge damage increase even to sentry.
And yeah, and on top of that, all the sentries share. It's like it's got an internal cooldown on the proc, and all the sentries share that internal cooldown. So if one fires it, all the other ones go on cooldown.
Oh wow. That makes
Yeah.
sense because Mikey was telling me that it seemed a little erratic how often they were firing, so
Mm.
that makes sense why it would be that way. Yeah, every demon hunter I have played with yet is using cluster arrow loaded for bear. So despite knowing very little about the current state of demon hunters, I have about 300 400 hours into demon hunters, but I'm not really up to date with them. I still think just because I think the devs go more off of what skills are most popular instead of which skills are most OP. I think as long as players are using a skill, then they're happy. As long as they're using other skills, but I digress. I think cluster arrow load for bear is probably going to get, if I had to guess, a damage nerf.
Hmm.
So I guess we'll find out. Maybe neither of us will be right. Maybe they'll nerf neither of them, but whoever's skill gets nerfed first wins this challenge.
Yeah, and then I see someone going through in the chat and saying that they expect the witch doctor to get nerfed, which is for me that's definitely a close second.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like at least a fix is in order there, assuming it's not working as intended. But I think we'll see a lot of nerfs over the next 3 months. Of course, devs prefer to buff whenever they can, so we'll probably see even more of those.
Hmm.
But yeah, just not quite enough build diversity in about half the classes, and the other half just have some threatening builds that could become OP with certain gear, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely that could just be it. That there's a couple of builds that people just haven't been running or haven't really gotten the word out yet with certain item combos that wreck it with the best of them in Torment 6.
Yeah, yeah, I've been talking about on stream. I think it's too early to call out any big changes, or I should say make big changes because it's only 2 weeks into the game.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just, especially without the trading system, everyone's on their own to find their own loot. And yeah, the vast majority of players have not even gotten half of the set of gear they want for whatever build they're going for. So yeah, once more players are getting all the gear they want, and we have millions of people trying out builds with all the tools available, I'm sure we'll find some more OP builds we haven't even seen yet.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Yeah, well, I guess that wraps up our build and challenge section. Keep in mind, if you guys have any builds or challenges you want to send us, we love your ideas. And even after I gave a speech on feedback last week
Uh-huh.
about,
And now
sorry.
we actually have an email address.
Oh, Nineball has made an email address. I didn't even know about this.
Uh-huh.
This is fascinating. All right. Yeah, I gave a speech on feedback last week about how no one gives it because everyone assumes someone else is giving it. We still only got one email. And so if you guys want to give us your feedback, we will definitely read it. And there's a good chance we'll talk about it on the show if it's, applicable. So I don't even know the email address. I'll have to hand it over to Nineball here.
It's westmarchworkshop@gmail.com.
I don't know how I'm going to remember that.
I don't know.
West
Maybe you should
March.
check your inbox.
Did you send it to me as well?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm not. I'm not staying on top of it here,
You-
but
I don't want to throw you under the bus, but you actually replied.
I was probably not sober.
I will take that as an answer. I will
Okay.
accept that.
Okay, that's a good excuse, I guess. Yeah. So send us feedback. We really want to hear it. If you want to send it, then don't be shy, because chances are you're the only one.
Hmm.
Do it.
Do it. Do it now.
Oh, and I should also announce we are on iTunes and Stitcher now.
Hmm.
And I don't have those links. We're connected to BlizzPro, so you can find us through there on Stitcher. And I've never listened to anything on iTunes ever, so I can't give any advice there on how to find us. But maybe Nineball knows something. We don't know things
I've
about our own
never,
podcast.
yeah. What is
We
this?
don't. Just go there and find us. You guys,
So,
you kids know your technology and how to find things online.
and they're already. Your bot is deleting my messages. I can't even link in chat.
Oh no, I'm sorry. You have to be level 5. I can't even.
Killing me, Smalls.
Oh, Noble got your link for you.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
There we go. Thanks, Noble.
And,
Stitcher.com/podcast/BlizzPro/Westmarch Workshop. But I'm sure if you go to iTunes and Stitcher and search for us, you'll be able to find us as well.
yep, and then we have another one for the iTunes. I'm defeated again.
All right.
Yeah,
We do
we've
need.
got. We're also in iTunes that you can go through, subscribe to us, listen. That was actually, I was really surprised. That was one thing that we did get a lot of feedback on Twitter after last episode is people really love their iTunes. People really want to listen to it on iTunes,
Yes.
which so definitely have got that up. We should have it up shortly after this podcast. We'll let you know. Keep us subscribed. That was the one last thing that we still have yet to do is set up a Twitter account for the show.
Yes. Yeah, I was going back and forth on if we needed one, but you think I guess it's probably a good idea to have one official place for.
Yeah, so to get feedback specifically for the show instead of trying to remember, what someone tweeted to me, a couple of days ago, in the middle of all the other conversations going on in the main accounts.
Yeah, it's a good idea. And for now, you guys can tweet us at Archon the Wizard or at Nineball Gamer. And I'm sure we'll have a Westmarch Workshop Twitter up soon. Just as a side note, before we wrap this up, the audio might be a little screwy because I found out my CPU is actually running at almost 90 degrees Celsius, almost 200 degrees Fahrenheit. My computer's overheating, and it causes sound problems. So if that is a problem on the recording, I apologize, and it should be fixed next week.
Oh, and I am very sorry. I actually made a mistake. It's not westmarchworkshop@gmail.com. It's westmarchworkshop at blizzpro.com. Because we use the Google apps, so it's the Gmail interface. I constantly forget about that.
All right.
There we go.
Westmarchworkshop at blizzpro.com. Maybe we should grab the Gmail just in case it gets sent there. Yes. Can't imagine.
Maybe
it's taken.
There's someone nefarious out there that's just sitting. I'm going to get all their feedback. Yes.
Yes. And then, yeah. Anyways, I'm going off topic, but I think that was it for this week. Was there anything else we wanted to touch on before we wrap up? Was we hit everything important there?
That's it.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you guys for watching episode 2 of Westmarch Workshop. We hope to get some feedback from you for next week's show. And even topic ideas. Anything you want to give us. We're pretty lazy, so anything any work you want to do for us, we'll take it. We appreciate it. And we really appreciate you guys watching the show. So yeah, give us a follow on Twitter, on Twitch, and give us an email if you have some feedback. And we shall see you guys next week. I'll let Nineball sign us off.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next week. Send us your feedback, definitely, and hopefully, we're definitely working on it's getting all of the classes up to 70 and start working on some of those builds so we can actually start going through and doing some. I have one in mind that I saw on Twitter for next week's show that I need to talk with you about, but it involves dueling.
I like it.
Yes. But all right. That's it.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Later.
We're out. And now that's when I should play the outro music, huh? That's what I do right there.
I think that's is when you're supposed to do it, yes.
Okay, there we go. And now, outro. We're good at podcasts.
I swear. Gotta believe us. Definitely.